Alright, BYU Cougar fans, hello. Welcome to the Blue Cougar Football podcast. What's on my mind? This is for Friday, September 6th, the day before the BYU Texas football game. So I've got a lot of Longhorns on my mind, as well as a couple other things. Let's get those other things out of the way quickly here. First, if you haven't heard already, former BYU linebacker Brandon Ogletree has started his own blog called OgletreeFootball.com, where he does some analysis and scouting reports and things like that. If you haven't checked it out, you ought to. I'm always trying to support former BYU football players, and he actually deserves it as well, because it's a pretty good website. He has some pretty good insights, and go ahead and check it out. It's been pretty successful so far, and he's pretty good. Wants to give feedback and respond to everybody who reaches out to him. So he tries to do that as much as possible. So go ahead, give it a look over. And next on my mind, I saw something with Kyle Van Noy getting mentioned on NFL.com. I'll retweet a link to the story. I found it on Twitter, and also put a link on the Blue Cougar Football Facebook page. If you use Facebook and you haven't gone over to the Facebook page and liked it, I'd appreciate if you did that. It's facebook.com/Blue Cougar Football. And I do put some unique stuff on there, put some stuff out there to think about, and you can comment on as well as regularly update it with links to the new stuff on Blue Cougar Football. Alright, this week starts a new BYU football tradition called the Cougar Walk, and where fans can line the street and cheer on the team and encourage them as they make their way into Lavelle Edwards Stadium. And if you're like me, that sure sounds familiar. Pretty sure it's being done by other schools around the country. And so, I welcome any opportunity for fans to interact with the football team and provide them any encouragement possible. At the same time, it just kind of bugs me that BYU is not being very unique about it, even in the name, the Cougar Walk. I mean, again, I didn't go in and research it, because that's not something I care to do too much and worry about what other schools are doing it and what they call it, but I'm pretty sure they call it some sort of walk as well. If it's not sure what those names are, but I'm sure it has walk at the end. And so, I mean, that's just something that bugs me a lot about BYU. You've got, on one side, you've got Bronco Mendenhall always trying to promote the program and talk about how unique it is and how great we are, our wonderful tradition, and so many great things that make us unique. Then we come out with stuff like this, and where it's just so copycat-ish, and it's like it's just painfully obvious that we're just trying to follow what other people do. We think, oh, they got a cool idea, let's do it ourselves. Well, let their cool idea, let them stand on their own with that. They came up with it. That's something that they do. So let it be theirs. Let's come up with something of our own. At least, I mean, at a bare minimum, come up with a better name. I put a couple out there on Twitter last night. My first idea was Cougar Crawl, but then I also put out Cougar Prowl, which I think is much better, and definitely prefer the Cougar Prowl over Cougar Crawl. And that at least sounds sort of intimidating and kind of, really gets you pumped up for the game. Like you're out there, like you're going to be out there on the attack. So I mean, it's just the latest in a long line of things that BYU does that kind of irritates me, that we always seem to be imitating, at least when it comes to the marketing and stuff, and not standing on our own in our uniqueness and being what makes BYU great, and that is the uniqueness. I'm all for having traditions, but let's let them start more organically rather than saying this is what we're going to do and it's going to be a tradition. That's normally not how traditions work, and so I hope a lot of people show up and support the team, because if there's not, that's something that could really demotivate the team if they don't see a lot of people there. So if you're there, if you can show up, do it, support the team, get them excited. This is the home opener, big game against Texas, and we need all the fan support and all the encouragement that we can. All right, one other thing on my mind, moving on from the Cougar Walk. I want to talk about intimidation. A lot of people seem to be intimidated by this Texas team, whether it's the 700-plus yards of total offense they had last week, the 56 points, or just the fact that this is the flagship university of Texas. Now, I put something out last night on the website. It was our weekly trivia, did you know, BYU Football Did You Know piece, and talked about how back in 1988, when BYU played Texas, BYU also played two other teams from that state, and Texas was the easiest game for BYU. A game against UTEP was actually the toughest game for BYU against teams from the state of Texas that year. And a game against TCU was an easy win, but not as easy as the Texas game. So, but that's 25 years ago, and this is 2013 now. But there's other things I noticed. I dug a little deeper, come up with some more reasons why we should not be intimidated by this Texas team. I know a lot of teams are on the bandwagon, thinking they could go undefeated, they could be a top 10 team, top 5 team. Right now they're ranked number 15 in the country, but I'm kind of skeptical about how good this team really is, especially still early in the year. I know they return a lot of guys on offense and defense, but this is a team that finished 9-4 last year. They had to make a pretty big comeback in their bowl game to win that game and finish with those 9 wins to show any improvement on the year before. If I recall right, they finished 8-5 in 2011. And they lost their last 2 regular season games last year. One was to Kansas State. I know Kansas State had a wonderful year last year. They lost 42-24 to the Wildcats, but then also they lost to TCU on Thanksgiving, 20-13. And TCU, if I can look it up quickly here in my Phil Steele college preview, TCU was 7-6 last year. So it wasn't a great TCU team. Last year, 6 teams scored 31 points or more against Texas. 5 of those were 36 points or more. So, yeah, there's a lot of guys coming back on defense, but what kind of defense was this? It was a defense that gave up a lot of points last year. And already now in the first game of this season, they gave up well over 300 yards total offense to New Mexico State. Last year when Texas played a good defense, well, I don't even know if they were a good defense. I'm thinking back to the Oklahoma game last year. That's one game I saw of Texas last year, and Oklahoma just annihilated them. Texas got creamed. They did end up scoring 21 points in that game, but it was ugly, early, And 21 points, so that's not too impressive against Oklahoma, defense that gave up nearly 400 yards a game last year. Because 5 teams scored more than 21 points against Oklahoma last year. So Texas, they, with the number of starters they have returning, and of course they always have individual players who ranked very, very high in their high school recruiting classes, but as a team, they've struggled to put it all together on the field, and so it seems like more of just a combination of the name, the coach, and the number of starters that this team has coming back, that everyone's so high on them. But I'm still a little skeptical about how it's going to turn out on the field. The biggest win that they had last year was, I guess, against Texas Tech. Lost to Oklahoma, lost to West Virginia, lost to Kansas State. And so, at the time, Texas Tech was ranked number 20 when they beat them last year. So there's your dose of optimism, and why we shouldn't be intimidated by Texas this year. And just like we shouldn't have been, I don't think we were intimidated in 2011 when we were able to come out and jump up 13-3 against Texas. We just weren't able to finish it. And so I think the potential's there for this to be a good game, and BYU just might be able to pull it off this year with a better defense and with the game being at home. So thanks for listening. That's it for today. I'm excited, and make sure you come back over the weekend for all the feedback about the game. Go Cougars!